desert had a way of swallowing headlights and secrets. By the time the seven of them, Maya, Luke, Caroline, Ben, Harper, Theo, and Javier, turned off the two-lane highway, the horizon was a long bruise of mountains, and the moon was a chipped coin. Nevada stretched out like a sleeping animal around them, and the town, a scatter of boarded storefronts and dust-choked windows, seemed to be holding its breath. They saw the hotel because of the sign. The building hunched over the corner of an empty intersection, 3 stories of sun-peeled stucco and blistered black trim. The only thing alive was the neon. The red and blue neon sign buzzed like a fly trapped under glass, the word vacancy pulsing in a steady electrical hum. A few letters in Sagebrush Hotel sputtered and then steadied like a heartbeat trying to remember its rhythm. Somewhere inside, an old transformer hummed with a low thrumming purr that felt like a cat warning you off. Retro Javier said, grinning as he killed the engine. The sudden quiet made everyone blink. The engine clicked as its heat cooled tiny metallic ticks, counting down the seconds in the dark. Luke stretched his back and looked up at the 3rd floor. Place has character, he said, which is what people always say when they're about to forgive the unforgivable. The lobby door was warped, its brass handle dented and worn as a river stone. Maya gave it a tug, and it opened with a sigh of stale air that smelled like old smoke and lemon oil. Inside a checkerboard floor, scoured white by time, a string of framed photos in sun-faded sepia women in cloche hats, lined up by a fountain men in suspenders with straight razor smiles. The front desk sat beneath a dusty chandelier that was missing more crystals than it had. As they stepped in, the chandelier tinkled faintly glass, crying against glass, a whispery clatter, like silverware kissing porcelain. Harper approached the desk and tapped the brass bell. The bell struck a bright, clean note that cut the lobby in half, then echoed twice, as if someone were ringing it back from a deeper room. No one appeared. Caroline checked the guest book, its leather cracked and flaking. The last entry was decades old. "We're not the first to walk into dumb," she murmured. A door behind the counter swung open, slow as a yawn. The man who emerged wore a suit the color of nickels and had the smooth, dry hands of someone who never lifted anything heavier than a pen. His name tag read, Albert. He smiled without showing teeth. "Welcome," he said, voice dusted with a lilting old-world cadence. "Travelers at such an hour are either very lucky or very lost." Ben laughed. His laugh came out too loud in the quiet, a quick bark that startled a flock of dust from the chandelier. "We saw your sign," he said. "And it's cheap, I bet." "Everyone who needs a room is given one," Albert said, and produced 7 antique keys with long, jagged teeth. Their brass fobs clinked like coins. The keys rattled together with a dry rattlesnake chatter when he set them down. "You'll find the 3rd floor, newly available. Rooms 301 through 307. Maya felt a draft that smelled faintly of char. She looked toward the stairwell where a strip of wallpaper had blistered into a puckered scar. "Has there been a fire?" she asked. Albert's gaze flicked up, then back down. "Long ago," he said. "Long before my time." He smiled again, the expression drifting across his face like smoke. "We take the past seriously here. You will too." From somewhere distant, a behind-the-walls fair, the muted rattle of ancient pipes groaned, then settled with a throaty glug. The elevator, tucked into a filigreed cage to their right, sighed and creaked as if it were breathing in its sleep. Javier peered through the lattice. "Does it work?" he asked. Albert nodded. When asked nicely. They chose the stairs. Their shoes ticked and scuffed against the steps, a staccato rhythm that echoed up the shaft, and came back sounding like someone else following them. The second-floor landing was colder and smelled faintly of wet stone. Maya paused at a photograph, a crowded ballroom, a woman turning her head to the camera at the last instant. Her eyes were smudges. Harper shivered. "Feels like a place that remembers," she said. On the third floor, a long corridor stretched away in both directions, painted a red so dark it read as brown. The carpet ran like a river down the center, its pattern of interlocked diamonds frayed open in places like wounds. The doors were painted with room numbers in gilded script. Maya glanced left and saw it 302. The brass numerals were blackened at the edges, as though they had been licked by a candle's tongue. A faint crackle whispered along the door like paper catching fire, then stopped so abruptly that the silence popped. "Dibs on 305, Javier said, tossing his pack over his shoulder. Ben took 303. Harper insisted on 301 because odd numbers made her feel luckier. Luke and Caroline, a couple still learning each other's gravity, chose 307. Maya and Theo took 306. When their doors shut, each latch clicked with a small metallic kiss, a neat parade of clicks that marched down the hall and dissolved into the hush. Maya's room smelled faintly medicinal, as if the sheets had been laundered in some sharp hotel soap from another decade. The wallpaper was a pale gold pattern of laurel leaves, some peeling down in curly tongues. An antique radio sat on the dresser, its wood face cracked but polished. She ran a finger over the dial. For a breath, the radio emitted a thread of static, a soft snow hiss that fizzed like an opened soda and then went dead, the hush pressing in again. Theo, always the tinkerer, rapped his knuckle against it. The radio replied with a hollow thonk that sounded absurdly like a knocked coffin. They met back in the hall 10 minutes later, drawn by a ripple of nervousness that none of them named. Javier had found a minibar, stocked with glass bottles capped in tin. Harper had a folded guide pamphlet she swore she found in her nightstand. The pamphlet's cover showed the hotel in brighter days. Inside, a paragraph mentioned the Great Desert Ball of 1932, the fateful night of the lanterns. The rest was blurred by water stains. "I swear the paper was wet when I touched it," Harper said, wiping her fingertips on her jeans, like it had been in a sink. A draft hissed up the corridor, making the light fixtures rattle in their cages with a tinny skitter. Maya looked at 302 again. The keyhole was dark as a pupil. "We should open it," Ben said, "just to see." Albert was suddenly there, his shoes silent on the carpet. He looked at their circle, his face as polite as a closed book. "Some rooms prefer to be left alone," he said gently. 302 is such a room. "What happened in there?" Luke asked. Albert's eyes smiled while his mouth did not. "A party," he said. "A small one compared to the one that followed." As he spoke, a faint bell chimed from the lobby below, 123, a lazy midnight toll that wandered up the stairwell like a lost tourist. "It is late," he added. "Guests find rest when they look for it." They drifted apart again, unease under their skin like grit. Maya stood alone by 302, feeling heat coming through the seam of the door. She pressed her palm close, not touching, and felt the pulse of warmth steady as breath. She leaned in until her ear hovered over the wood. Behind the door, something crackled softly, the kindling pop of embered wood, the distant sizzle of fat from a pan that no one was holding. Beneath that, almost too faint to hear a long exhale, moved through the grain, like a crowd breathing in one body, like a room full of lungs remembering their work. "What do you hear?" Theo whispered. Maya stepped back. "History," she said. "And it still thinks it's midnight." They turned in. The elevator woke once, cables whispering, and the steel cage sighed down the shaft with a breathy shiver that raised the hair on Maya's arms. A door far down the corridor thudded, though no one was there to make it thud. In her bed, Maya stared at the dark chandelier medallion and counted ceiling cracks like constellations. She could feel the hotel around her settling into her bones, a weight and a welcome. In the small hours, the front desk bell rang, one sharp, lonely pure. And then from behind it, the softer, older chime of a bell no longer on the desk answered a ghost of brass speaking to brass. Somewhere deep inside the walls, pipes coughed and knocked with the irregular rhythm of a heart learning to beat again. Tap, 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 tap. The neon outside kept up its insect hum, a restless sizzle that buzzed against the glass like summer trapped in a bottle. And then just before she fell asleep, Maya heard it, a single slow drag of a match head across a strike plate scratch followed by a gleam of whispered fire licking the edge of the world. She opened her eyes to darkness and warmth, the air carrying a thread of old smoke, and thought recklessly, stupidly, that morning would make everything ordinary again. But the night had already checked them in. The desert outside had gone quiet, the kind of silence that presses against the windows until it feels like glass might shatter under the weight of nothing. Inside, the hotel breathed. Pipes clanged like hollow bones, a slow drip tap echoed through the walls, and the neon sign outside hummed and crackled as though it were chewing on its own light. Ben, restless, couldn't sleep. His room 303 smelled of old ash like a fireplace that had never been cleaned. The wallpaper peeled in jagged strips, and the ceiling stain above his bed looked uncomfortably like a spreading burn mark. He lay there listening. Somewhere down the hall, a door creaked open with a drawn-out whine, followed by the soft, measured sound of footsteps, heel toe, scraping against the carpet, then stopping just outside his door. He held his breath. Silence. Then 3 faint taps against the wood knuckles wrapping hollow patient. Tap, tap, tap. Ben swallowed hard. "Maya," he whispered. No answer. He crept from bed, pressed his eye to the peephole. Nothing. Just the carpet pattern stretching into red darkness. He shook his head, muttering, "Screw this," and unlocked the door. Empty. The heat hit him next. Not desert heat, but something heavier, wetter, the thick, suffocating warmth of a kitchen fire. It was coming from room 302. The brass numbers shimmered, as if lit from within. Ben stepped closer, the doorknob breathing heat into the corridor. He touched it, then yanked his hand back with a hiss. Too hot. He raised his fist and pounded. Each knock thudded like fists on a coffin lid, muffled and final. The knob turned itself. The door swung open an inch. Heat rolled out, carrying the stench of charred wood and something coppery cloying. Ben pushed inside. The room wasn't empty. It was burning. Curtains curled black in a fire that made no smoke. The wallpaper blistered like skin. Somewhere fire roared a deep guttural crackle, the sound of timber collapsing in unseen attics. In the middle of the room stood a bed, its sheets unburned, pristine white. On the bed sat a woman, or something that had once been one. Her dress was torn from shoulder to hem, her hair fused into glassy clumps. Her face was a smear of soot with teeth showing through. She lifted her handskin, peeling like wax, and beckoned. The fire groaned louder, a low boom that rattled the windows in their frames. Ben staggered back, but the door slammed shut behind him. He spun, pulling at the handle, but it wouldn't turn. "Help!" he shouted, pounding with his fists. His blows echoed dully, absorbed by the walls like punches into flesh. The floor heated under his bare feet. The sheets on the bed ignited without warning. The woman's body erupted in flames. The roar swelled fire, screaming a choir of crackling timber and snapping nails so loud it drowned out Ben's own voice. His hair curled, his skin bubbled. He screamed once, twice, then silence lost beneath the inferno. In the hallway, Maya woke to the smell of smoke. She burst from 306 Theo stumbling behind her. The corridor shimmered like a mirage. Ben, she called. Her voice bounced down the hall, a thin echo that came back to her, sounding scorched, warped, as if replayed from an old tape. She pounded on 303's door. No answer. The air grew hotter, suffocating. Caroline and Luke rushed out, Harper too, clutching her guide pamphlet to her chest like a Bible. "Where's Ben?" Harper gasped. The door to 302 creaked open on its own. Its hinges wailed a long metallic scream that raised goose flesh across all their arms. The smell of burned meat rolled out. Inside the room was perfectly normal, a made bed, nightstand lamp glowing dim, a carafe of water. No fire, no woman, no Ben. Only a single scorch mark on the floor where footprints ended. Theo whispered, "We need to leave. Now." They thundered down the stairs, only to find the lobby deserted. Albert was gone. The front doors wouldn't open. The brass handles turned without moving the wood. The bell on the counter rang, once bright and mocking ding, though none of them had touched it. "We're trapped," Caroline breathed. From above faintly, the elevator cables groaned, steel whining under weight, a slow rising squeal. Luke turned toward the shaft. "Where the hell's Ben?" No one answered. Because they already knew. The lobby was a coffin in waiting. They stood huddled by the desk, the 7 of them, now 6, the weight of absence pressing harder than the desert night. Harper was the first to speak, her voice trembling. "Ben's gone. That room ate him." Theo shook his head. "No. There's got to be an explanation. Maybe he ran. Maybe there's a back door." But there was no back door. The lobby had only the entrance they couldn't open, and the gilded elevator cage glinting like a metal jaw. Its cables thrummed above their heads, a steady vibration that carried down the shaft like a pulse. The air was full of it, a low metallic moan that shifted when you listened too long. Caroline clutched Luke's arm. "We can't go back upstairs." Maya looked at the stairwell, dark and silent, and then at the elevator. The doors were half open, waiting. The cage groaned softly, chains clinking together with a rattle like loose bones in a sack. Albert's voice came from nowhere. "It is faster to ride," he said, though none of them saw him enter. His words seemed to slip from the walls, from the chandelier itself. As he spoke, the front desk bell chimed once, a lonely ding that carried too long before fading. Javier cursed under his breath. "Screw it. If the stairs are bad luck, I'll take the elevator." He shoved the door wider. Inside, the cab gleamed with polished brass rails and mirrored walls cracked into spider webs. The floor was a checker of black and white tile, one piece missing at the corner like a pulled tooth. "I'll prove it's fine," he said, stepping inside. The others shouted for him to stop, but the gate clanged shut. The accordion grate screeched as it slid a jagged scream of steel teeth grinding together. The elevator lurched. Cables above wailed a metallic scream, then fell into a guttural rattle as gears clanked. Javier grinned nervously through the bars, giving a thumbs up. "See, works like." The lights flickered. The bulb overhead buzzed, fizzed, then popped with a sharp crack that showered glass like ice. The elevator trembled, dropping an inch and then holding. Javier's grin faltered. Guys, the cab dropped." A thunderous slam echoed up the shaft, followed by the shriek of steel skidding against steel. The sound was unbearable. 1,000 nails dragged down 1,000 chalkboards. Javier Harper screamed. She clawed at the gate, but it was locked. Inside, Javier's screams were drowned by the roar of cables, snapping a final metallic twang that echoed like a snapped violin string, magnified 100-fold. The cab plummeted into darkness. A hollow boom surged up the shaft, shaking the chandelier until its crystals jingled in a frantic rain. Then silence dead, suffocating silence. Maya's chest tightened. She stumbled back, hands over her mouth. Caroline wept openly now, Luke gripping her so hard she gasped for air. Harper knelt by the shaft, peering down. Nothing. Only black. Then from far below, an echo, a wet, splintering crunch, meat meeting steel. Theo dragged her back. Don't look. The elevator doors stayed open, an empty throat leading nowhere. From within the shaft, the cables groaned again, only this time, impossibly, they sang upwards. A grinding, wet, slick sound like something crawling hand over hand up the wires. We're leaving, Maya said. We're not staying in here another second. They turned to the lobby doors. Still locked. The neon sign outside fizzed louder, vacancy buzzing like a wasp against glass. Harper sobbed. We can't get out. It won't let us. Albert was behind the desk again, polishing nothing. His expression was gentle, almost sad. Every guest finds their floor. Some go quickly. Some take the long haul. Where's Ben? Where's Javier? Theo demanded. Albert tilted his head. Where they belong. Where the fire put them. Where the fall delivers them. Maya lunged toward him, but Luke caught her. Albert was gone before her fingers could touch. Only the echo of his absence remained, a faint click of shoes on tile retreating into no direction at all. They retreated into the parlor, a side room with velvet chairs sunk to skeleton springs and a grand piano whose lid sagged. As they entered, the piano groaned a single note, low trembling, like a sigh from its cracked strings. Theo grabbed a chair, wedging it under the lobby door handle, though none of them believed it would matter. Caroline whispered, We can't just sit. We'll be next. Harper clutched her pamphlet. It said something about the lanterns, the night of the fire. Maybe that's why. Maybe we're reliving it. The chandelier above ticked faintly, crystal hitting crystal like tiny clock hands. The sound built slowly, irregularly, a tinkle here, a jangle there, until it was almost like laughter made of glass. Maya pressed her palms to her temples. We can't split up. We stick together. No more wandering alone. Luke nodded. Agreed. Stairs only. But when they peeked into the stairwell again, the corridor had changed. The walls rippled with heat like asphalt in summer. And halfway up the stairwell simply ended in black, an unfinished slice of nothing. The hotel's moving, Theo said, voice hollow. They turned back. The elevator gate had slid shut on its own. Metal teeth clicked into place with the surety of a trap resetting, followed by the soft hiss of cables, sighing like a creature satisfied after a meal. No one spoke for a long time. Then Maya whispered, We're 5 now. The hotel seemed to agree. From deep within its belly pipes banged 3 times clang, clang, clang like a hammer on iron, sealing the number. The parlor reeked of mildew and dust, as if the furniture had been soaked in some storm no one remembered. The 5 of them sat in a broken circle, their shadows long and uncertain in the yellow light of the chandelier. Nobody wanted to be the first to speak, but Harper eventually broke the silence. We can't just sit here. The hotel it's taking us one by one. Theo rubbed his face with trembling hands. Then we don't let it separate us. Caroline, pale as chalk, whispered, We'll die here, just like the others, just like the fire. Her words hung heavy. From somewhere upstairs, a faint drip echoed through the ceiling. Drip, 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 each drop landing with a wet slap too loud to belong to water. The sound made Harper jolt. "What is that?" she asked, standing. "It's coming from the rooms," Maya said. "The bathrooms." They crept back into the hall, every step reluctant. The corridor hummed with a low vibration, like water pipes moaning in their sleep. Now and then, a soft knock sounded inside the walls. Thud. Thud, like knuckles pressing from the other side. They reached Harper's room 301. The door was ajar. A thin red glow flickered from within. Harper froze. "I didn't leave it open," she whispered. Maya nudged it. Inside, the lamp glowed dim, and the air smelled coppery heavy. In the bathroom, something sloshed. The sound was thick liquid, heaving against porcelain, a slow, sticky swirl. "Don't," Theo muttered, but Harper pushed past him. The bathtub was full, not with water, with blood. It glistened black-red surface rippling as though stirred from below. Tiny bubbles rose with faint gurgles, bloop, bloop, popping wetly at the surface. Harper screamed. Before anyone could move, the liquid surged upward, a tidal grasp. It wrapped Harper's legs, pulling. She clawed the door frame, shrieking, "Help me!" Maya and Theo grabbed her arms, but the suction was monstrous. The tub belched a deep glug-glug, like some giant throat swallowing. "Don't let go," Harper wailed. But her grip slid with blood. Caroline sobbed as Harper's body was yanked spine-bending unnaturally. The splash thundered crimson, spraying the walls, and Harper's final scream gurgled as the blood sealed over her head. The surface stilled as calm as glass. When Maya and Theo stumbled back, only ripples remained. The tub drained itself in seconds, leaving behind dry porcelain. No Harper. Caroline collapsed, shaking. "4," she whispered. From the corner of the bathroom, the old faucet squealed, once high-pitched and cruel, before going dead again. They staggered into the hall, haunted and hollow. Luke wrapped his arms around Caroline, whispering nonsense just to fill the air. Maya pushed them forward. "We can't stop. If we stop, it'll take another." They reached the far end of the corridor where tall windows looked out over the desert. The neon vacancy buzzed through the glass. The transformer outside crackled in erratic bursts, bzzzt, bzzzt, spitting sparks against the blackness. Caroline stepped forward, pressing her palms to the cold glass. "It's right there," she said. "The road. We're not trapped. We just have to break it." "Don't," Theo warned. But Caroline grabbed a side table, lifting it with trembling strength. "I'm not dying here," she screamed, slamming it into the pane. The glass sang a high, brittle note like a crystal goblet struck by silver. Then the note fractured into a screech as cracks spidered outward. Luke tried to stop her, but too late. The pane burst inward. The explosion was a shriek of razor shards, each piece slicing the air with a whistling hiss. Caroline's scream cut short as a jagged blade of glass took her across the throat. The sound was wet, a splurt of air, and blood followed by the patter of glass chimes raining to the floor. Luke caught her as she fell, blood spraying his shirt. He sobbed her name over and over, rocking her. But her eyes were already glassy, her body slack. The neon outside buzzed louder, pulsing in triumph, bizzit, bizzit, as if applauding the kill. Luke roared in rage, shoving at the broken frame, but the desert outside was gone. In its place was nothing. A void. Only black, endless, and cold. He staggered back, holding Caroline's body. Theo whispered hoarsely, 3 left. They retreated the hall behind them, whispering with phantom voices. Faint giggles flickered through the air, childlike and mocking, weaving in and out of the hiss of unseen flames. The floor creaked beneath invisible feet, as if dozens were walking just out of sight. Maya pulled Luke by the arm, forcing him to release Caroline's body. "We can't help her. If we stay, we'll be next." Luke's face twisted in fury. "Then let it take me. I'm not leaving her." "Luke, please," Maya begged. But the hallway stretched wider between them, the shadows thickening like tar. From above the elevator, cables groaned again, slow, satisfied metal grinding against metal with the weight of something climbing. Theo pointed at the stairwell. "It's changing again. We have to move now." They dragged Luke, half fighting, half begging, into the darkness of the next corridor. Behind them, the chandelier in the parlor shook violently, crystals clattering in a chorus like crazed laughter. The hotel was alive now, fully awake, and it was starving. And the night was far from over. 3 left: Maya, Theo, Luke. The hotel seemed to breathe in satisfaction, its walls pulsing faintly as if veins ran beneath the plaster. From the ceiling, dust sifted down with faint crackles, and somewhere deep, a boiler moaned low, hollow, like a dying animal remembering its last breath. Luke staggered forward, face blank, with grief shirt soaked in Caroline's blood. He no longer wept, his eyes were dried wells. "It took her," he muttered. "It took all of them." Theo grabbed his shoulder. "Then we don't let it take us." Maya's voice was iron, though her body trembled. "We keep moving. If we stop, it wins." But the corridor had stretched again. The carpet sighed under their shoes, each step echoing like it was swallowed by something deeper than stone. Lamps flickered above, buzzing erratically, bzzzt, bzzzt, like angry insects caught in a jar. They turned into a new hall, narrower, lined with doors on each side. The air stank of smoke and rot. One door at the end glowed faintly. Room 306, their own. Theo stopped dead. "That's impossible. We left it behind." The doorknob rattled violently on its own, rat-tat-tat, then fell still. Luke stepped forward. "If it wants me, it can have me." He shoved the door wide. Inside their room was wrong. The bed loomed huge, larger than before, sheets blackened at the edges as if burned. The air was syrupy, heavy. Maya hissed, "Don't go in," but Luke was already stepping closer. The mattress shifted. A hollow sound sighed from within, a slow, sucking slurp like mud pulling at boots. The sheets swelled upward. Before Luke could react, the bed lunged. The mattress folded open like jaws. Luke screamed, thrashing, but the sheets wrapped tight, dragging him down. The springs squealed metal, shrieking as if laughing while the bed gurgled with wet hunger. His hands clawed at the air, then the sheets snapped shut and Luke was gone. The room was silent again, bed perfectly made. Only a faint imprint of his struggle remained, vanishing like breath on glass. Maya clutched Theo's arm. 2 left. From behind them, the corridor doors banged in unison, bang, 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 like fists from the other side, demanding release. They ran. The hallway seemed endless, stretching longer the farther they went. Their footsteps quickened lungs burning. Yet the hall only grew doors, repeating wallpaper patterns, looping like a nightmare reel. Their shoes slapped, thud, 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 but the sound became hollow, echoing back, as if dozens more feet were running alongside them. Theo gasped, slowing. "We're not getting anywhere." The lights above flared, then went dark. Only the neon vacancy outside glowed faintly through warped glass, pulsing red-blue. Maya pulled Theo's hand. "Keep going." But the hall bent, folded, stretched into a labyrinth. Their breaths grew ragged. From the walls came whispers, thousands of voices layered together, pleading, screaming, laughing, chanting, all rising and falling like waves. Theo's knees buckled. He collapsed, chest heaving. I can't. Maya dragged him, but the hall stretched further, mocking. She realized the truth, there was no end. The hallway itself was feeding. Theo slumped against the wall, sweat pouring down. It's pulling. My strength. Maya screamed at him, desperate. Stand up. He smiled faintly, shaking his head. Run, Maya. Save yourself. She clutched him, sobbing, but his eyes closed. His body sagged. His breathing slowed, then stopped. The hallway had taken him, draining life like water from a cracked glass. Maya knelt over him. One left. The lamps overhead flickered back on, buzzing louder than ever. Bzzzt, then popped in showers of sparks. The hall glowed blood red for an instant, shadows leaping like fire. She staggered onward alone. Every door rattled. Knobs twisted, hinges creaked, voices moaned behind each panel, some begging, some laughing, some growling low like beasts. Finally, she reached the lobby again, or what looked like it. The chandelier glared with full light, crystals blazing. The desk bell rang on its own. Ding, 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 a sharp, mocking rhythm. Albert stood behind the desk, immaculate as ever, his smile thin as wire. Every guest finds their end, Miss Maya. Yours is overdue. The lobby doors swung wide. Beyond them, dozens of figures shuffled inside. They were burned and broken, their bodies blackened clothes, charred eyes, hollow sockets glowing faint orange. The guests of the fire. Maya backed away, shaking. No. They surged forward, silent at first. Then a rising chorus of wet, tearing bones, cracking flesh, rending shark, crunch, rip. She tried to scream, but the first clawed hand caught her throat. Another tore her arm. A third ripped her stomach wide. The sound was unbearable. A symphony of ripping fabric and splitting wood, except it was flesh, hers, shrieking under the tearing. Her body was pulled apart piece by piece, vanishing into the crowd of dead guests. The chandelier above rattled crystals, clinking in frenzy, until finally the light blew out with a pop. Darkness. Outside, the desert was silent. The hotel squatted in shadow. The neon sign buzzed faintly, busy zit, its red-blue glow stabbing the night. The word vacancy pulsed steady, as if calling the next traveler from the endless Nevada road. And inside, the lobby bell chimed once more. Ding! The hotel was ready for its next guests.